What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. I am very excited for this 13 gamer that we have for Wednesday. It's a monster, so buckle down. I'll try to give you guys all the relevant information that I'm using to make some picks for today. Coming off of yesterday's 2 gamer, looking to get the first win of the season. Yesterday looked good in the beginning, and then that second game didn't kind of go as planned, with Davis not scoring very many fantasy points. But it is what it is on a 2 gamer. We have 13 games, so it's a lot easier to kind of I think differentiate yourself from the field a little bit today. So let's get started. As always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button on the video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out the website if you want to join. Links in the description, dfsprocess.net. And I want to say thank you for all the support on yesterday's video. You guys got over 200, I believe 250 likes, almost 4,000 people watched. So thank you. Shout out to all the new people that are watching. Glad to have you guys part of the channel. And let's get started with this behemoth of a slate. All right, so we'll go position by position because going game by game would take probably forever, and I'll try to make this as concise as possible. So you have quite a bit of point guard options to pay up for. Harden, Luka, Trey Young, Westbrook, and Lillard are all above 9K. Now, in that order, I think Luka is the best pay up option. He is second most expensive, but he seems to be a better play than James Harden right now. Harden missed a couple of the preseason games. He missed the first 2, and then he came back. And there's reports he doesn't want to be there. He's might not be giving it at all. He didn't have a very good preseason to end the preseason in his last couple. So I think I'd rather take a shot on Luka. He seems like better conditioned, and he seems like he wants to be playing where the place that he's in Dallas, unlike Harden. So Harden, I think I'll probably pass on him today. I like Luka, and then you have Trey Young, who looks great as always against Chicago. It's on the road, but he's poised for a big season. They got him some reinforcements. Although one of them, Clint Capella, is not expected to play today. He's doubtful, but he still has another guard to play alongside in Bogdanovich. He has another shooter in Gallinari tonight. So I think they look a little bit better as an entire team, but you could see Trey Young kind of not shoot as much, but I still think he's poised for a big season. Westbrook at 93, he looked okay. Him and Embiid have some sort of rivalry, so this will be a fun game to watch. He says he's not going to have a minutes limit, which is great. Playing next to Bradley Beal, they're just going to dominate usage. It's not going to be too different than the scenario back in Houston, although he's probably going to handle the ball more because Beal does and is willing to just catch and shoot. So Westbrook isn't my favorite play. I think I would rather go up to Luka or take a shot on Trey Young. In the 8K range, not really interested in any of the 4. I think Simmons is probably the best. Moran I like, but he's pretty expensive at 84. I think you can look at some cheaper point guard options that we'll get to. So 8K range, I'm not really interested in anybody except maybe Mitchell for tournaments, but I really haven't played Mitchell at all last season until the bubble where he was going nuts, and then I jumped on him. But he is really just a really good shooter, and in the bubble he was getting a lot of peripherals, and he was playing like 40+ minutes a game. So they might ease a lot of these teams that played in the bubble. They might give their starters like 32 to 35 instead of like 38 to 40, or like instead of 37 to 38 jumping right out of the gate. So we'll see what kind of rotations and what kind of minutes some of these guys played today. I think De'Aaron Fox looks pretty solid. He's under $8,000. Signed him to a max contract in the offseason. He is the face of the franchise. He is super electric and fun to watch. He had a up and down preseason. He kind of struggled in the last one, but he is able to get you assists with 13 assists. He's going to play a lot of minutes, and him and Buddy Hield are just going to be the two main guys on that team. So I like Fox at 78. I don't think he'll be super popular today. John Wall, 74. This Houston team has quite a bit of guys that are going to command some usage. They have John Wall, James Harden. They have DeMarcus Cousins, although he'll probably come off the bench. They have Christian Wood. So they have like 4 guys compared to just 2 last year. So Wall, I want to see what kind of role he plays in the first game with all the other guys in there and playing like starter level minutes. You can take a shot on him if you want to, but I want to take a wait and see approach at least on Draftkings. And then you have Kyle Lowry, Drew Holiday, 2 guys that are always like playable. They're gonna have big games every once in a while. Holiday, it's a completely different spot for him, playing next to Giannis and Middleton. So goes from being the main guy to being like the second or third guy on the Bucks. So I want to see how his role is with his new team. Then you have some guys I'm not gonna be that interested in, like a Rubio coming off the bench or Marcus Smart. I think Kobe White looked pretty solid at 6,500. He had a really good preseason, except for the last game where he struggled shooting, but he's still playing. He's probably going to play huge minutes. They already said he's going to be starting, and there's a chance that Satoransky doesn't even play because he like missed a couple of the games from preseason, and he has like COVID protocol. So if Satoransky is out, then Kobe White, his minutes are even more secure. So at 6,500, you're getting a really good player that can shoot the ball, facilitate, and will play big minutes alongside Levine, so they can be a great 1-2 punch. So I like Kobe White a lot. He's probably one of my favorites guys in that cheaper range at point guard. Another guy to look at is Malcolm Brogdon at 6,200. Just dealt with a lot of injuries last season, but whenever he was playing, he was super effective. Uh, he's a decent shooter. He can shoot the three. He can make most of his free throws. He's like a 80-90%, or he's like a 90% free throw shooter. He will facilitate, get rebounds. He's coming off of a preseason game where he was pretty solid in the preseason. He shot 22 times there. Their role with him is pretty secure. So I think at 6,200 against a bad Knicks team, there is some blowout risk, but I still think Brogdon at 6,200 will be more than enough to kind of pay off that salary. He's averaged about 6x value last season on the salary, so you're not expecting too much out of just what he's been doing for most of the game. So I think Brogdon looks to be one of the better pacer options. You also have Sabonis, who we'll get to, that looked pretty solid today. Other guys at point guard, you have DeJounte Murray. He looks fine today because there's no Derek White. It's a good spot against Memphis, a pace-up spot. The Spurs are pretty cheap, especially Murray and LaMarcus Aldridge, so I think they look the best on that team. And then just some tournament guys like Payne is a tournament play, Ball is a tournament play. And then right now below 4,500, I'm looking at maybe Darius Garland. Cavs are dealing with some injuries, starting point guard, gonna play good minutes. Or you can look at Shake Milton, the sixth man off the bench for the Sixers. Maybe even close, depending on how Curry and or Green play in the game. You have Killian Hayes, 3,900 point guard. But Casey already said that he's going to use a similar rotation to Sunday, and they played a bunch of guys, so I don't really want to. I don't think his minutes are like going to be 30 plus, like we would hope, at least right out of the gate. And you have George Hill at 3,600 starting. George Hill talk is never fun to play, but he's going to be starting for the team. Probably will push closer to like 28 to 30 minutes. Fine spot against Houston, so gonna have to take a much bigger role than he was last season on the Bucks with the Thunder this year. And that does it for the point guard position. Brogdon looks really good, I think, in that $6,200 range. Moving on to shooting guard, you have Booker at 89. It's pretty pricey for him. I will not be interested at that price tag. Beal, you can definitely take a shot with him. I think he's going to have a good year. It's going to be a lot worse than last year because last year he was the entire piece, the entire season, the main guy, but now he has Westbrook alongside him. But I still think you're going to see good production from Beal, and 85 isn't super expensive. I do like Zach LaVine at 79. He had a really good preseason. He plays good minutes. He shoots. His shooting has been a lot better over the last couple years, especially last season. And he can facilitate and get rebounds at a much higher clip than he was when he was with the Timberwolves to start the year. So his facilitating and peripheral stats have really gone up. So I like LaVine at 79, but I think you can also make an argument that Kobe White looks similar, if not a little bit better, point per dollar wise. You're getting another guy that's going to shoot a bunch. You probably see him and LaVine shoot like 20 times plus a game. And Kobe White has the ability to get you like 7-8x upside at this price tag. So I'll play him and Brogdon together. Might go a little bit balanced today, just with some of the uncertainty surrounding some of the minutes that some of these top end guys will play and some of these teams will play after pretty short off season. So I think going with guys that can get you 7-8x upside, like a Brogdon, like a Kobe White, I think they look like really good plays, point per dollar wise at least. Other guys at this position, you have, I'm not thrilled about Smart. Could look to Van Fleet. He always has upside. There's always, I always like to play one of these Toronto guys when someone if I like to play Van Fleet if Lowry misses or if or if Siakam misses, just because they get a lot more usage. Like those three are going to split some usage and kind of take away from each other. But they're all, especially Van Fleet's at a good salary, so it's not too big of a deal. Hardaway looks to be a pass at 6K. Fournier looks to be a pass too at 58. Not that interested in paying 57 for Barrett. This position isn't super deep. You could look to Beasley or Brooks. And then if you're going cheap, you could look to Bogdanovich at 5K. He looks fine playing next to Trey Young. Curry is a little bit expensive. Like you're going to need him to just shoot the lights out at 4,900. He's not going to get you rebounds. Might get you a couple of assists, but he's definitely not going to be a big time rebounder, a big time peripheral stat guy. Edwards seems like he's going to be coming off the bench, I believe. He'll take a shot on him if he plays well. He has a good chance to close the game at least over whoever they start with, whether it be Beasley or Koji or both of them. Terence Ross, 44. That looks like a pretty good tournament play. Like, really cheap for him, a guy that can just light it up. JJ Redick, similar boat. Danny Green, similar boat, although Green, it's not super exciting to play. You know what you're getting, a 3-and-D guy with him. And that's kind of it. Maybe Dante DiVincenzo now that he's probably going to be starting. But I think this position isn't super loaded. So I'll take a shot on Kobe White at 6,500. Small forward, we have Tatum at 92 against the Bucks. We'll see who they start today. They could start Jeff Teague or they could start Javonte Green in place of Kemba. But anyways, it's going to be a good spot. For Tatum, Brown, they're going to benefit pretty immensely. It's a tougher spot against Milwaukee. They play fast, but they're a good defense. Boston doesn't play super fast. So I think they're better options. Simmons looks good against Washington. It's a really good spot to just like high pace, fast pace. Ben Simmons going to benefit probably without Horford and getting rebounds, and doesn't have Josh Richardson either. So going to handle the ball a lot. And 87 is not expensive. Only thing with him is that he doesn't shoot a lot, and he seems happy to just kind of let, at least in the preseason, he seemed happy just to let like Tobias shoot, Seth Curry shoot, Green shoot, and just him just be the assist guy. Ingram seems a little expensive at 86. That price tag is going to be tough to get to for me, so I will pass on him, at least on DraftKings. Fanduel looks good. DeRozan is expensive at 73. Not expensive, but I like Aldridge at 65 will get to him. I think he looks better. This position seems like you can kind of go a little bit cheaper here, I think, at small forward. You have Porter at 65. Had a pretty good bubble, but we know Malone doesn't like him a lot just because he doesn't play great defense, although maybe that will improve this season. But 65, you're going to need him to have a good game, so I think I'll pass. Like you have Tobias 6,200 against Washington, a pretty good play, I think, point per dollar wise at least. You have other guys in this 5K range, like a Bogdanovich, the other Bogdanovich at 5,100. Pretty good play, I think. Average right around 6x last season. It's a good spot against Portland. Should be a pretty high scoring game. I think you can go cheap at this position, like I said. So I'm going to scroll down just because I have a couple guys that I already know I like. Like, there's nobody that jumps off the page right now. But if you're going below 4K, there's a few guys that look good. Could take a shot on the Knicks rookie, Obi Toppin, at 37. You could take a shot on a Koji if he starts, although I think there's better guys, like an Isaac Okoro at 3,400. Okoro looked pretty good today with all the injuries on the Cavs. Like, no Kevin Love today, so they already said that Larry Nance will start, but Okoro has been starting in the preseason ahead of Osman, so we'll see if he continues to do so. If he does, 3,400 just seems like a really good value play. So I will be jumping on that, especially at a position where you have a couple of spend-ups, but there's nobody really in the mid-range that looks like super appealing. So you could look to Okoro at 34, and then you have another rookie, Patrick Williams, who started the last couple preseason games. He looked pretty good, too. He's only 3K. He's a min-priced. So keep an eye on him, the Bulls rookie. So you have two rookies below 3,500 that are in line to play like 25 minutes today. I think Okoro looks a little bit better just because he has a little bit better offensive game, but they both look like pretty good value plays. Moving on to some of the deeper positions, power forward and center are absolutely loaded today, so I will just jump ahead and just tell you guys which guys I really like. Giannis always playable every day. I'm never going to tell you not to play Giannis because that's going to be the day that he drops like 90. But Giannis in play, I will not have him today though. Uh, Collins, I like a lot at 76, and that is only because Capella is doubtful. Like with Capella doubtful, if Capella was in, I wouldn't pay 76 for him. But now that, well, with him missing the game, you're going to see Collins shift over to center against a Bulls front court that is definitely vulnerable against bigs. And Collins will play the 5 instead of the 4, will get a lot more rebounding opportunities, and his minutes will probably be even a little bit higher. So he seems to be the best guy at power forward. Another guy that I really like is Sabonis at 7,400. He had a huge preseason. Missed most of last season with injury, or like missed the last portion of last season with an injury. Couldn't play in the bubble. And he just kind of picked up right where he left off in the preseason. It's a really good spot against a Knicks team, a big Knicks front court against like Randall and Mitchell Robinson. So you'll see him play good minutes and really stuff the stat sheet. So you can do like a little Sabonis and Brogdon pairing if you want to. Like Sabonis has the ability to drop 50 fantasy points, so it's gonna be I think it's a good spot for him today. So Collins, Sabonis, two guys I really like. You can take a shot on Julius Randle. I don't mind him at all at 69 if you want to run it back on the Knicks side. He's the best play on the Knicks. Aldridge, I like quite a bit. He's only $6,500. Really good price tag on him. And Popovich has told him to shoot threes, so we'll see Aldridge shooting it from the outside this season. That will probably just help him a little bit in terms of just getting better shots. He won't be the most efficient three-point shooter, but last season he was good at least against Memphis. They're going to be missing Jaren Jackson for a few weeks, so Aldridge, good spot, good matchup. Fast-paced team against the Grizzlies. I think at 65, he's another really good point per dollar play. Other guys to consider: Tobias, we mentioned him. Covington on the Portland side, just because he can rack up those blocks and steals. And then I think Baisley looks okay. 60 or 51 is still not as cheap as I would like, but he looks fine. And that's kind of it. I think power forward is a position where I would rather pay up. Small forward is a position where I'd rather pay down. Centers today we have Giannis at center eligible, so if you can get up to him, you can definitely play him there. You have Embiid, who only played one of the 2 preseason games, and he only played the first half of the first one. So I definitely don't think he's going to come out of the gate and play like 35 to 37 minutes. He'll probably play in the lower 30s. It's a really good spot, though, against Washington. He crushed them last season, and no Horford alongside him this year is just going to help him get a lot more rebounds. So he looks good, although I wish his minutes were a little bit higher today, just based on my guess. You have Cat against Detroit. Both guys are pretty similar. If you wanted to go cheaper at center, you could take a shot on Drummond at 8K without Kevin Love. You could take a shot on DeAndre Ayton, Sabonis. Pretty loaded center position, like I mentioned. And then below 7K, right at 7K, you have Nurkic. And then you have Gobert at only 68. That price tag did look a little appealing to me. 6,800 for Rudy Gobert against a big Portland team. They're going to need him out there against Nurkic. And they just signed him to a huge contract, $205 million contract. He is the big man for them for the future and the present. And you're going to see him I think the price tag is just too cheap, 68. He was like high 7Ks last season, at least mid 7Ks for all of the season, at least most of the season. And we're getting him at only 68 against a Portland team that is going to give up fantasy points. Like this game should be somewhat high scoring, and you could definitely see Gobert just crash the glass here and get a pretty quick and easy double-double at a really cheap price point. You also can rack up block shots, which is always great for fantasy. So I like Gobert. I think he's just a little bit too cheap. So these are the 6 pieces that I have right now that I think look pretty appealing. As you can tell, I'm kind of going in the mid-range and going with like stars, but not like superstars, and kind of making a balanced team. So we'll see if anything changes. We have 13 games, so probably we'll get some news with some players out maybe this afternoon. So let's go ahead and jump over to Fanduel. I want to talk about my picks over there. All right, Fanduel is completely different story here with the positions and with the pricing. Starting off here at point guard, Luka is 11.4, so he's completely much more expensive than all the other point guard options, which is very unlike Draftkings. It's a big price tag to eat on the first day. I know the Mavs have like the second highest total today. Definitely have a high total against the Suns, but I think that seems a little bit too expensive. You can get Trey Young at almost $2,000 cheaper. You can get Ben Simmons at like $200 cheaper. So I'll be passing on Luka's price on Fanduel at least. There have some guys that look really good here on Fanduel, whether it be Simmons at 92, whether it be John Wall at only 7K. You have Brogdon at 66. Murray is 62 and Kobe White is 62. Both guys look good. Murray without Derek White and Kobe White starting and maybe without Satoransky. So in the 6K range, it's Murray and White and Brogdon as the main guys that I'm looking at. And then below 6K, if you needed to go cheap, nobody that looks that thrilling, except for Terry Rozier at only 4,600. Seems like a really cheap price tag for Rozier. I don't know why he's that cheap. Yeah, that's like the guy that you would play. But I think right now Kobe White at 6,200 looks really good. He's pretty affordable. He can light it up shooting, and it's a good spot against Atlanta. Like they should give up points. It should be a huge pace up spot for the Bulls. Moving on to shooting guard, you have James Harden at 10.8. Then you have a very cheap, very big price gap like you have at point guard, all the way down to 84 until you hit Devin Booker. I like Booker at that price point. I like Beal. SGA seems expensive, but you got to keep in mind it's a completely different role for him. He goes from being the third option last year to being the first option. So he looks expensive, but I think that's where he's going to be for most of the season. D'Angelo Russell, 7,500. This game is not going to be super thrilling, at least on the Detroit side. The Timberwolves side, you have a couple pieces, but the Detroit team will probably play pretty slow today. Guys that look appealing at shooting guard. If you're paying up, you can look to like a Levine at only 7,900, or look to like a Bradley Beal at 81, or Booker. If you want to go cheap, you have Buddy Hield at only 5,200. That looks to be a nice cheap price tag. You have Dylan Brooks at only 51. He can be a decent play, at least like get you like 25 to 30 plus fantasy points on FanDuel. And you could look to maybe like Beasley, although we'll see what his role is with the team. So pretty much it at shooting guard. I think I'll plug in. I think I'll go ahead and plug in Zach LaVine. Kind of just go with the two Bulls that I think will command most of the usage today, and White and LaVine. Small forward, you have Giannis at 11.5, and then he goes a big. I mean, this position is pretty deep today, unlike most positions, but that's what's going to happen on a 13 gamer. A lot of viable pieces here. I think Brandon Ingram looks great at 7,300. He doesn't have to play with Drew Holiday anymore, so it's going to be a little bit more usage for him. He does have Bledsoe as a new piece, but he doesn't get a ton of usage. And I think Ingram and Zion are just going to lead the team this year. So look at Ingram at 73. You could look at TJ Warren. He had a couple of huge games in the bubble, dealing with some sort of injury, but he says he's going to play. If you want to go cheap, you have Porter at 54. You have Larry Nance, small forward, at somehow 51. But the guy you want to maybe take a shot on is Denny Avdija, I believe, 3,500 from the Wizards against the Sixers. They already said he's going to be starting today. So I think he is like a really good value play. Good chance to start according to Scott Brooks. He had a pretty solid preseason. And then even after Brooks said that, Rui Hachimura is now going to miss 3 weeks with conjunctivitis, which sounds pretty painful. Don't know what that is, but I do think Denny's in line for at least like 25 to maybe 30 minutes today. 3,500 against the Sixers. He's going to be, obviously he's going to not be a high usage player playing next to Westbrook and Beal, but I think he can chip in and at least pay off the salary. Like, you don't need much to pay off 3,500. Power forward, this position is very deep on FanDuel. You have Tatum, you have Siakam, you have Sabonis and Collins. They look great. You have Williamson, Aldridge, Randall. Very, very loaded position. And even cheap, you have Christian Wood and like Covington. So pretty cheap guys at this position. Also in like Baisley at 48 and 4,700 for Bertans. Because see Bertans start today without Hachimura. So we'll see. If you want to, this is a position where you're going to have to make some decisions. If you want to pay up or pay down, or maybe go with one of each. I think I'll probably at least pay up for one of these guys, and I think right now it's probably Collins that looks the best just without Capella, you're getting a center at power forward, and Collins can definitely light it up. So Collins 77, I think, looks pretty solid today. And then at center, another loaded position with some of the value that you have. It's affordable and easy to pay up here for like an Embiid or Karl Anthony Towns. They are the two spend ups that I'm most interested in, and then Jokic is the third guy. If you wanted to go save some money here, you could look to Gobert or DeAndre Ayton. I don't think I need to go with a guy in the 6K or 5K range. Like center, it's a pretty big opportunity cost to not having one of the top end centers, especially when there's so many of them. Like probably one of Jokic, Towns, or Embiid goes off and drops 50 plus. And in the matchup, I take a shot with Embiid at 94. So this is the the 5 pieces that I like on Fanduel. Leaves you with still 6,300 left. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. It's a long one, but it's a 13 gamer, so I think did at least a pretty good job of kind of breaking it down for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and best of luck today.